Welcome. It is week 13 in the NFL. And today I'm going to talk about the NFL. I'm going to give my picks. And I'm going to talk about the New York Jets. And that's about it. So let's go. Let's go. And if you're watching this, hit the like button. The only likes I ever get are from myself. So if you actually watch this, hit the like button and subscribe. And maybe more than two people will see my video. Anyway, let's go. This is a great week in the NFL. Most of the teams, most of the games, there's five great games. And even the bad games are kind of interesting, some of them, just to see where people stand. And the first three games I got here are kind of the bad ones. The Steelers and the Falcons are a coin flip today. Both teams stink. You got Marcus Mariota playing for the Falcons, 5-7. And they might stink, but believe it or not, they're actually still in the playoff hunt. I think Tampa Bay is only one game ahead of them at 6-7 or 5-7 with they got the tiebreaker. So it's the Falcons at 5-7 are still very much in the playoff hunt. Not to mention Carolina and New Orleans are also in the playoff hunt, and they're not good teams. But that would be the NFC South for you. So the Falcons got something to play for. Pittsburgh has nothing to play for. They're in Atlanta. The game's a coin flip. And I actually picked the Steelers when I wasn't thinking about it. I just looked at the two teams and I picked the Steelers. But, this is a game where Atlanta's actually got something to play for. I don't know. It's a coin flip for a reason. I'm going to take the Steelers to win this game. They've got no reason to win it, but I just have a feeling they're going to pull this off. I think they're a little bit better of a team. Then we go on to the Packers and the Bears. The Packers at 4-8 and the Bears at 3-9 are both out of it. The Bears got shellacked by the Jets last week. They looked pathetic. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. And the Packers, well, they still got Aaron Rodgers, who might play today and might not. So that doesn't make it easy to pick. Packers are given 4. They're in Chicago. Packers are just a better team, even with their 4-8 record. And the Bears and Packers they play hard against each other. So I'll take the Packers in this one to cover the 4 points. Jaguars and Lions. It's an interesting game. Both teams are coming up next year. Both these teams might be playoff teams. They improve every week. Both at 4-7, but they've been in many games. Jaguars have lost 3 or 4 games by a point. By a less than a 7 points anyway, less than 1 score. And the Lions the same way. The Lions always they give it their all. So the Lions are -1. They're in Detroit. I just think the Jaguars really had a good game last week, and I think they're really, really, really going to try to continue to build on that great game they had last week. So I took the Jaguars to cover the -1 in Detroit. So, these first 3 games are all hard because, besides the Falcons, none of them are really playing for anything. So who's going to show up? Who's not going to show up? It's tough to gauge that part of the, betting aspect. So, when you bet on 2 teams that have nothing to play for, you just don't know what you're going to get out of them. They might show up, they might not. Now, this game here, the Jets and Vikings, I assume both teams are going to show up. Now, the Vikings have pretty much already clinched their division at 9-2, but they want to continue to win. Maybe they can finish, 15-2. We're playing 17 games this year, which is insane for NFL. But they do have less to play for than the Jets. The Jets are locked into a AFC wild card race that's insane. There's Cincinnati, Baltimore, New England's still in it. The Jets, And the reason New England's still in is because they got the tiebreaker on the Jets. So, I mean, they're 2 games behind the Jets with what, 5 to play? So, you never know. The Jets 7-4, Vikings 9-2, and the Vikings are 3-point favorites. The Jets are getting 3. I think the Jets are an overall better team. The Vikings schedule has been a bit of a marshmallow. They have beaten Miami, but they beat Miami with Miami's third string quarterback started. And then they also beat Buffalo, which that game was a odd game. Buffalo gave it away at the end. They fumbled on their goal line and ended up giving Minnesota a touchdown. Buffalo actually would have won that game. They didn't shoot themselves in the foot. I think Allen had 2 picks, and Buffalo lost that game probably more than the Vikings won it, but the Vikings did win it. And then they beat New England, and that was their other big win. And New England, besides beating the Jets twice, really hasn't shown that much. I mean, they've shown zero offense. So I would say the Vikings are not as good as their record. 9-2, they're really like a 7-4 team, which the Jets are. The Jets have had a much tougher schedule. The Jets got a way better defense. I think the Vikings are the worst defense in football, the worst, and they're 9-2. That doesn't happen much. Their offense is pretty good. They've got playmakers everywhere. Their offensive line is not good. The Vikings have a lot of weaknesses. They have a bad offensive line, especially their interior offensive line. And their best player on their offensive line, on a bad offensive line, is out this week probably, and Darrisaw. So it's going to be a tough game for Kirk Cousins because the Jets' defensive line can get at it. You got Carl Lawson, Sheldon Rankins is back this week. He was out. He's a tremendous inside player, inside tackle. And so is Quincy Williams with his Pro Bowl year. And then you've got Michael Clemens, Jermaine Johnson, and Bryce Hoff, all also on the edges. I mean, they're just loaded on the defensive line. The Vikings are going to have a really hard time getting more than 2 seconds to throw the ball today. And that's going to make it tough. And, the Jets got good defenders on the outside. I mean, the Vikings' strength is their receiving core. They got a good tight end. They've got 2 great wide receivers in Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. But the Jets can actually lock them down. The Jets have 2 Pro Bowl cornerbacks in DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. So they're going to slow them down. They might not stop them, but they're definitely going to slow that passing game down. So this could be a long game for the Vikings. I mean, if you just go by matchups. So, the Jets getting 3 points. They might lose by 1 or 2. I can't see the Jets getting blown out in this game. I can see the Vikings getting blown out. So we'll take the Jets. Giants and Commanders, 7-5 Washington Commanders. I hate that name, by the way. And I think a lot of people are calling them the Washington Commies. Very appropriate. You should call them the Washington Grafters. Or the Washington, what do you call it? Back pockets, pickpockets. That would be good. The New York Giants at 7-4. The Giants are at home. They're -2 favorites. I don't know that much about Washington. I know they got Taylor Heineke's their quarterback. And they're running around. They're playing great for their coach. And the Giants playing great for their coach. Neither of these teams have loaded anything. I guess the Commanders' defense is pretty good. And since they're getting 2 points, I'll say I'll take the Giants. The Giants are at home, so we'll just say they sneak by with a win here. Although it's that's a tough game, but I took the Giants anyway because they're from New York. I'm from New York, so there we go. Titans are 7-4 playing the Eagles. This is also another great game. 7-4 and 10-1. The Eagles are 10-1, and the Eagles aren't good against the run, and the Titans, all they do is run. So it's a good matchup for the Titans. The Titans got a good defense. This should be a really close game. And getting 4.5, I took the Titans. This could be a 3-point game. Probably the Eagles win, but I just don't know if they cover 4.5. That's actually quite a lot of points for going up against a really good Titans team that matches up well against them. And you actually see that a couple times this week where you see teams that like the Jets match up really good with the Vikings, yet the Vikings are still favored by 3. Yeah, that's a lot of points. I mean, 3 points and really going to the weaker team, even though they're 9-2. I know. Broncos 3-8 against the 7-4 Ravens, and this is in Baltimore. Ravens are 9.5 point favorites. Broncos have a tremendous defense, and if they show up, they'll stop them. They can stop the Ravens from doing anything. Um, I like the Broncos for that reason. 9.5 points is just too many against a team that has arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL. It might be the best defense in the NFL. It's just that their offense has been so putrid this year that the defense has been put in a lot of bad situations. They they're not playing as at 3-8. It's hard to get up every game. Defense is playing emotion, and it's hard to have a lot of emotion when you're 3-8. But they do have a great defense. If they show up, they will stop the Ravens. Ravens will probably still win. I see it like 20-15, 24-20. I took the Broncos. I think the Broncos will actually score points this week. They've been working on it. The offense is going to try. They've been horrible, but they're going to try. And I mean, you got Russell Wilson, and you got some playmakers on the Broncos that you can't understand why their offense is so bad. I haven't watched them enough to figure it out. Then you have the Browns and Texans. Not a good game. This is the worst one of the weekend. Browns at 4-7. They're okay. They got Deshaun Watson coming back, who is a very talented quarterback. Hasn't played in 2 years. How rusty will he be? I don't know. The Texans are 1-9-1, showing absolutely nothing to anybody. They have a bad defense, a bad offense, bad special teams, bad coaching, and the Browns have playmakers everywhere on their team. So they're -8, even though they're in Houston. I still think the Browns can win this game easily by 10. So I checked the Browns. So before I flip the page, we'll go back through my pick so far. Steelers and Falcons, I took the Steelers. Packers and Bears, I took the Packers. Jaguars and Lions, I took the Jaguars. Jets and Vikings, I took the Jets. Commanders and Giants, I took the Giants. I don't know why. Watch that be the only game I win, but I really wanted to take the Commanders, but I took the Giants. Titans and Eagles, I took the Titans. Broncos and Ravens, I took the Broncos getting 9.5. That's a lot of points. The Browns and Texans, I took the Browns. It probably doesn't matter the points that they're given. If it was 14, as bad as the Texans are, I'd still take the Browns, especially with Deshaun Watson coming back. It might give a little boost in the arm today. We won't get into the Deshaun Watson train wreck that is the Cleveland Browns, but he is a good football player. We'll leave it at that. The Seahawks and the Rams. Another horrible game, even though the Seahawks are battling for a playoff spot. They're 6-5. They're 6.5 point favorite against the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. 3-8. Every playmaker on their team is hurt. Aaron Donald's out. Stafford's out. Cooper Kupp is out. Oh, they're just riddled with injuries. They played horrible. Super Bowl hangover to the 10th degree or the nth degree. So you got a stinky Rams team against a very overrated Seahawks team whose schedule has been putrid, and they're still 6-5. Seahawks are -6.5. But the Rams, I just don't know. They're in LA. That's 9.5. Seahawks should be 9.5 point favorite over absolutely nobody in the league except for maybe Houston. I'll take the Seahawks just because they're playing for something. We know the Seahawks are going to show up today. The Rams, they haven't shown up all year. So the Dolphins versus the 49ers. This is a wonderful game for a multitude of reasons. Dolphins are going to pass the ball. That's what they do. Their defense is not very good. The 49ers had this incredible defense. They love to run the ball. They got Christian McCaffrey. They like to do screen passes, end arounds, a lot of West Coast offense, small, dinky dunks, with Debo Samuel, and then let Debo Samuel run, Christian McCaffrey run. We haven't seen the 49ers offense explode yet. This could be the game they explode. This game here, I really like the over in this one. Whatever that over is, I don't know it, but I like the over. I think this is going to be a 35-30 game, and I think the Dolphins pull it out. They just got more weapons. So I'm going to take the Dolphins to win this. They're getting 4.5 points. They're 8-3. They're playing a better league. They've had a tougher schedule than the 49ers. So we'll take the Dolphins to cover. Now you got to remember, I mean, especially this time of year, you can look back at some of these schedules, and like I said, I mean, look at the Viking schedule. It's been a joke. The 49ers schedule has not been that great. They're only 7-4. They've lost to some suspect teams, and the Dolphins have, played great. I mean, they lost to the Jets. They lost to some really good teams. They lost to the Vikings when they had their third string quarterback was playing for the Dolphins when they lost to the Vikings. And then there was someone else they lost, like Kansas City or something. I mean, they really lost to good teams. Then you have the Chiefs and the Bengals. Chiefs 9-2 versus the Bengals 7-4. The Chiefs are -2. Now the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs the last 2 times they played. And the Chiefs are really coming in. They really want this game. They're battling out with Buffalo for first place in the AFC. It does probably mean more to the Bengals. I just think the Chiefs are. I think Andy Reid really wants this game to put a feather in his hat to say, yeah, we beat this team. In case they see him again in the playoffs, which I pray not, because if we see the Bengals in the playoffs, there's a good chance we don't see the Jets. And I really want the Chiefs to win this game. I'd love to see the Bengals lose. That'll put them 2 games behind the Jets, even though they have a tiebreaker if the Jets win. So, but I think the Chiefs -2. I think they can win this game by 7. So we'll take the Chiefs beating the Bengals. Chargers 6.5, and the Raiders. I'm sorry, the Chargers are 6-5 for this year, and the Raiders are 4-7. The Raiders have actually played 2 good games in a row. The Chargers have been iffy. I mean, the Chargers have a lot to play for. The Raiders don't. But, I think Bill Belichick's protege there is coaching the Raiders. Josh McDaniel is playing for his job. So they're gonna try their best. And I think Derek Carr is playing for, I think he goes free agent after this year. So he's playing for a big contract. So they're going to try their hardest. I think whichever team wins this game wins by 1. The Chargers just ain't that good. Besides Justin Herbert, the rest of their team is not that great. Yeah, they got Khalil Mack. He's good. But other than that, they're a pretty weak team. I think we're looking at a 1-point game, and the Raiders are -2.5. And the Raiders are favorite in this game. That kind of tells you what they think about the Chargers, Vegas. I took the Chargers to cover that 2.5. It looks like a trap game, though. It looks like everyone's going to be on the Chargers to beat the Raiders. This looks like a trap game. I wouldn't put no money on it. I really wouldn't. I think the Raiders might win this game, but I'm going to take the Chargers anyway. I'm going to fall for the trap. I'm stepping in that bear trap, that Vegas bear trap. They got to win 1 game a week. They got to have one where they win big. And who else to set it up but the Raiders? All right, the Colts 4-7-1 versus the Cowboys 8-3. It's also an interesting game because I broke this down. The Cowboys are 10.5-point favorites, and I went back and I looked at the Cowboys schedule. I looked at the Colts schedule. I looked at their margins of victories, and I'm telling you, the Colts are probably just as good as the Cowboys, and they're getting 10.5. I know they're in Dallas, but in Dallas, isn't the hardest place to play because it's indoors, it's on turf. Loud as hell, though. They play the stupid music up there, and they play it way too loud. It's horrible because I've been there. I hated it so. I wish they would not play that background cheering. They literally have background noise, the crowd noise, and it's just nonstop, like "Brrr." Your whole head's hung. By the time you leave there, you have a big headache. It's not exact. I'd rather watch a football game from home than go to Jerry World and get a giant headache. And even with the 10 whiskeys I had that day, I still had a big headache when I left there. Cowboys minus 10.5. I went with the Colts. So to recap my second page of picks, Seahawks and Rams, I took the Seahawks. Dolphins and 49ers, I took the Dolphins to cover that 4.5. I'm not so sure they win it, but 4.5 is a lot. Chiefs and Bengals, I took the Chiefs, even though they're given 2 in Cincinnati. The Chargers and Raiders, I took the Chargers. They're getting 2.5 points. Like I said, I smell trap here, but still took the Chargers. And then the Colts and Cowboys, I took the Colts. Cowboys are a bit overrated. And the Colts, even though they're 4-7-1, they've really been in a lot of games. They have a great defense. They can put points on the board. 10.5 seems ridiculous against a fairly good Colts team. This isn't like the Texans or Denver that can't put a point on the board. This is ain't a bad team. So 10.5 is too much. Take the Colts. I think the Cowboys get a lot of action every week because they have a lot of fans nationwide. And that's why a lot of people bet on the Cowboys. There's teams that always get given more points than they should, like the Cowboys, the Giants, the Patriots used to be that way. People just bet the Patriots because they always won. Although the Patriots seem to cover a lot. That's about it. Have a wonderful Sunday. Enjoy the football, and have a wonderful Christmas. If I don't, did you see my Christmas tree I put up? Got my Christmas tree up. So Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. End stream. Oh, that's not screen. I always do that. I always think it's touch screen. End. Uh-oh, I can't end. That's not good. This crappy laptop. End stream, baby. Did I end it? No, still going, I think.